everybody, a warm welcome to Honeydew Days. So today we will be doing a book review. I'm reviewing the book Show Your Work 10 Ways to Share Your Creativity and Get Discovered by Austin Kleon. In my opinion, it's a great book for the creative beings, for the artists who just started showing their work, and especially YouTube beginners. So as far as the summary goes, the book talks about fear of sharing the imperfect product. It talks about the insecurities about not being good enough and thinking what other people will think, fear of embarrassing yourself in front of others. The book is a guide to how to get over all these things and start learning on the job. The author talks about working while learning. He says your first project should be your inspiration for the next one. You learn something your first project and then you apply it to the next one, and that's how you become good. The book starts with a great quote: in order to be found, you have to be findable. The author says you cannot keep your work to yourself and think that you'll be fine one day when you'll share your finished product. So the book is divided into 10 chapters, and we will be reviewing it chapter by chapter. So the first chapter is you don't have to be a genius, and it starts with a quote: give what you have to someone, it may be better than you dare to think. So the author says thinking that your work is not good enough and waiting for something you think is perfect and then sharing it is a wrong strategy. He says share what you have and let others decide how valuable it is to them. Maybe what you think is not very good or not the perfect thing may be the right thing for somebody who wants to learn something or somebody who's looking for something you have. So don't be too judgmental on yourself and too harsh on yourself. In this chapter, the author talks about an interesting concept of genius. By genius, he means ecology of talent. He says the finished product or any art worth or valuable is not created in vacuum. It is a group of individuals, artists, curators, thinkers, theorists, and other taste makers who are all involved in or inspire the artist in some way or the other. So good work is not created in vacuum. So don't think that you have to be over smart or you have to be you have a great idea and for working on it you have to get out of the world and lock yourself into the room and work on the idea whole your life. At this age, digital age, it doesn't work like this. To be creative, you have to be inspired by your own process, and it's about how you connect with people, not just about the final product. And for connecting with people, you have to show them your process. Just share what you have, however small it is, and let your viewers know that you are working on something that may turn out to be great or may be okay, but share your process with them. It is age of internet and you have that facility available. You don't have to go to museums or publish your book before you show it to your viewers. Now you can show your process. You can take your audience along with you through the creation so that they think of it as their own. And the author says be an amateur. He talks about how important it is to be an amateur and how important it is to have that mindset that you are not perfect and you are learning something. While you think of yourself as an amateur artist or amateur in any skill you are trying to learn, you allow yourself to learn from your mistakes. Here the author quotes an quote from Charlie Chaplin, who says, "That's all any of us are, amateur. We don't live long enough to be perfect at anything else." We cannot be perfect, and this is what he wants to say. So just when you strive to be perfect, try to go near to the perfection, you should cherish the process. The author talks about value of being an enthusiast who preserves her work in the spirit of love. when you're paid for something, or when you do something as your job, it's not love anymore. When you are enthusiast, you are amateur, you find time from your busy schedule, some minutes here, some minutes there, and then you do it. That love for what you are doing can make the magic happen. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. This is a quote by Jen Monk Shunryu, if I pronounced it right. So it's a great quote. He says, when you don't know much things, when you are beginning something, something to learn something, there are many possibilities in front of you, and sometimes in the way you find new ways to do something. And when you are expert at something, there are few set rules and few set ways you want to do it, because you have gone through the process, and you are not going to try anything new because you are already expert at that. So being immature gives you freedom not to be afraid. They are lifelong learners. They don't have hesitation to make mistakes, and it is easy for them to go from amateur to mediocre to good. Of course, there is a huge gap between being an amateur and good, but it is better than doing nothing, right? If you won't start, you won't reach. So take a step one day and learn something at every step. Amateur, and when we are trying to learn something on our own, keep in mind amateurs have more to teach us than an expert, because he faced that problem which we are facing recently, whereas an expert faced it a long time ago. So and particularly in this fast changing world, we all are amateurs. So the best way to get started on the path to sharing your work is to think about what you want to learn and make a commitment to learning in front of others. This is an interesting line. So if you want to make something, so make a commitment that you learn, and make a commitment that you learn in front of everybody else. So that's rule out the feeling of embarrassment. Because when you start, you will be embarrassed when you're learning something new. You are bound to make mistakes, and if you are learning in front of everybody, so you rule out that fear the moment you start learning. So if your product turns out great or not so good or average, you are okay with it, because your process is already in front of everybody. The product doesn't make any difference. If it turns out great, and if it turns out okay, it's okay, because they know you learned it recently. So the author says, try to learn as much as possible, and don't worry about making mistakes. Don't worry about it being a business or career. When you start doing some creative work, don't worry at the very first step that how would you like to convert it into a career or business. First do it for how much you love it, for why do you want it. Just think, what do you want from it? Do you want something new to do? Do you want something exciting, or it's just a desire to learn a new skill? And do it. Don't make the first moment and plan everything what you will be in, like at the end. So just start what you think of today. The second heading here is, you can't find your voice if you don't use it. That's self-explanatory. You cannot expect people to find you if you don't talk about yourself. If they can't see it, they cannot admire it. If they can't hear it, they cannot appreciate it. So you have to get out there and present yourself. And then the author mentions a very interesting ritual which he follows: read obituaries. By obituaries, he means remind yourself that our time on earth is limited, and when you read obituaries, there's nothing more clear. We have to remind ourselves that we don't have infinite time. So and realizing that can give us great sense of courage to make things happen for yourself. We can't wait for things to happen. We cannot wait for the perfect opportunity. We cannot wait for something else to happen so that we will start something. It doesn't work. Remind yourself every day that uh, this day will pass, whether you do something or you don't something. You have a limited time and it will go. So it's on you if you want to make things happen for you or not. You cannot be sitting and waiting and thinking that some miracle will happen and you'll be what you want to be. So this is all the first chapter was about. So moving on to chapter 2, think process, not product. Author suggests us to take people behind the scenes. Only the artist knows about the process of making an art and shaping it into something beautiful. But author says it may be true for the pre-digital area, but today everybody is carrying a mini studio in their pockets in the form of a smartphone, and you can easily take your audience to behind the scenes and make them a part of your process and can connect to them on a different level. You'll be surprised how people feel the sense of being part of something and see it as their own. And when your audience see your work as their own, they tend to like it a little more and feel connected to it. Of course, the process is going to be messy, and it's on you how much you want to share and how much you want to hide, because all of it is not interesting. So make selections from the process. And for sharing your process or taking your audience behind the scene, the best way is to become a documentarian of what you do. It doesn't matter what you do, you have to document your everyday, every step of your work. Sometimes we feel like we have nothing to share for it at the end of the day. But whatever the nature of your work is, there is an art to it, and there are people who could be interested in that art only if you present it to them in the right way. This is a great thing. When you do creative works, when you are an artist, it's very important how you present it. It's like storytelling. A storyteller decides how big a story is or how small it is. It's on how you tell it. Same is with the artwork. If you present it well, it will be artistic. Sometimes art creative products are not easy to share. In that case, sharing your process becomes very crucial for you to connect with your audience. And when you feel you have nothing to share, scoop up the scraps and the residue of your process and shape them into some interesting bit of media that you can share. In this way, you are making invisible into something visible. You are creating stuff. And you have to do it for yourself. Sometimes you cannot let a whole day go and feel you have nothing to share. By sharing that little thing, you feel progress. Best way to document your process is work journal. Work journal make you see things more clearly, and it provides you with the surplus material because you are journaling and everything. You have documented every step. So when you feel like you don't have something to share, you have a lot of stock there, and it makes you a feeling of progress. That is that inspire you to do start your work next day. And document tools can be research, journal, drafts, video, notes, drawing, whatever you feel comfortable with it. Now, chapter 3. Chapter 3, author suggests that you remind your audience that you exist, and that should be every day. Share something small every day, however small it is. Send a daily dispatch. Like it may be a Twitter feed or a short video, anything, but you share a small thing every day. Overnight success is a myth. You cannot be wake up someday and you have a great product and everybody likes it. It's not like that. You have to make efforts. You have to make people like your work, and for that you have to have a connection, and that is formed in years. Focus on one day at a time. It is simple but to say, and very simple rule, but it's not easy. It's not easy to overthink or go ahead of yourself, but it is important to focus on one day at a time. And I think the best way to do is to make a to-do list. Make a to-do list every night and make it so long that you don't have time to overthink. When you get to the end of your to-do list, your day is already over. That's a simple hack. And at the end of every day, find something you can share. Your work methods, your process, or if you finish something, your finished product, or if you're just starting, share your influences, share your inspiration, share what inspires you in the project. Anything you want. But here is the author tells about a very interesting law. It is Sturgeon's law. It is from Theodore Sturgeon, who is a science fiction writer, who says 90% of everything is scrap. Means 90% of the books coming out, 90% of the films coming out, 90% of the YouTube videos, or any form of art is crap. So don't overthink. So don't worry about perfection. Just keep going. Make a project, share it, and move on to next one. But here suggests kind of warns us that don't be too immersed into ways to share things that you forget to do your work. First you have to first do your work and then find time to share it. You have to fix your priorities, set your priorities first. Here the author suggests a very simple test, the sober test, in case you are confused about that you should share something or you should not. The test goes like, should I share this? Ask this question to yourself. Is it unique or interesting? Is it useful or interesting? Then if the answer is yes, go ahead, share it. If the answer is no, toss it out. And if you are confused, I don't know, save it for the later. The next concept is of flow and stock. The author says turn your flow into stock. Stock here is the content you create, and this is the durable stuff, and it spreads slowly but builds a fan base. Flow is the feed which you share daily, and one should maintain the flow while working on your stock in the background, because when you revisit your flow, you find patterns, and those patterns can be changed into something big and substantial. Next, the author says build a good domain name, build a website, your own space online where people can go anytime and find you there, or your blog. The author mentions it's so important that he says if you want to take one thing from the book, take this one. Go ahead and make yourself a website. He says build a good name. Here I am quoting him word by word because this is very interesting. Build a good name. Keep your name clean. Don't make compromises. Don't worry about making a bunch of money or being successful. Be concerned about doing good work. And if you can build a good name, eventually that name will be your currency. Now moving on to chapter 4. Chapter 4 starts with open up your cabinet of curiosity. So here author talks about an interesting fact about 16th, 17th Europe, where the rich people used to have a wonder chamber or cabinet of curiosity, which are basically precursors to museums, a place dedicated to the study of history, nature, and the arts. It can be anything. It can be collection of books, art, shells, artifacts, plants, minerals. The author says there is not a big difference between collecting and creating as we all might think. He says for example, he explains it with an example. He says you cannot be a writer if you are not a reader. That means act of writing and reading exist on the opposite side of the same spectrum. So you cannot be a creator if you don't appreciate the work already created. Same is with writing. If you are not a good reader, you are not going to be a very good writer. So share your taste in the work of others. Collection is kind of sharing your taste in the work of others that inspires you, that for your own work. And the author says don't be a hoarder. Hoarder means, he says, don't make your projects a reserve of your projects and share that from time to time. But whatever you have, give away right off. So that you don't become stale and there is no staleness in your line of work. And when you give away everything, you are forced to create something new. So in a way, the more you give away, the more you get back. And then author says something about guilty pleasures. He says if you like something genuinely, don't anybody let feel guilty about it. I mean, what is guilty pleasure? If you know something is good, if you like it very much, don't feel guilty about it. Own your taste. There's nothing wrong in liking something. Being open and honest about what you like is the best way to connect with people. And of course, if you are honest about what you like, you will be attracting your own kind, the people who have same taste. And that's what you want in a line of creative arts. And then the author says, credit is always due. That means give credit where it is due. Never hog on somebody else's credit, for the sake of creator as well as for the sake of audience. The author says, as a creative worker or as any type of worker, it is very important to give credit where it is due. It's not just for the creator whose work you are using. For the audience also, it is a responsibility, because if your audience finds something very interesting and then you are mentioning very interesting and they want to dig deeper, if you have mentioned the credits, or if you have mentioned from where you took it, they can dig deep and go to their work and enjoy it. So it's your responsibility towards your audience also. Now moving on to chapter 5, that is tell good stories. So here author is busting a long existing myth, that is work does speak for itself. Author said it doesn't. You have to tell stories about your work. So here he makes you understand with an example, story about an original and fake painting. He mentions there is a painting there are two similar paintings, one original and one forgery, in a museum. And when people see, they want to know which one is original, and their likingness towards the painting very much depends on on what you tell them, which one is original. So author says, if you are liking a painting for the colors, for the brush strokes, for the technique, then it shouldn't matter which one is original or which one is created last week. But it does. When an object or given a food or shown a face, people assessment of it is how much they like it, how valuable it is deeply affected by what you tell them about it. You have to tell a story. By telling by knowing something about a project, people make a different kind of emotional connection to it. Work doesn't speak for itself. Human beings want to know where things come from and how they were made of and who made them. These little facts, these little stories make your work much more valuable and much more likable to the audience. And now if you have to tell a good story, you must have a structure. So here he explains Dan Harmon's story circle. It goes like a character is in a zone of comfort, but he wants something, and they enter in unfamiliar situations when they follow that desire. they adapt to it and get what they wanted. Then they pay a heavy price for it, return to their familiar situation, and having changed. During the process, they change themselves. But in life, we don't have finished stories. Our lives are always open-ended stories. We are in the middle of our stories. But don't worry, you present your past and present beautifully and leave avenues for the future. You don't know how it's going to end. Your audience don't know how it's going to end. So make room for the curiosity. But while telling a story, keep in mind your audience and value their times. Be brief. Use direct, plain language so that it's easy for them to understand. And the author says, talk about yourself at parties. That means self-promotion. It's not bad to talk about yourself. We feel shy talking about ourselves, but when you are supposed to tell stories about your work, you have to talk about your work first. You got to make your case. This is quote by West, and he says, if you won't present yourself, how will they know what you do, and how will you get them to appreciate you? How we should be able to explain our work to kindergartner, a senior citizen, and everybody in between. That means we should know our work so well that we can have it ready in very plain language or very easy to understand, so that we can, if we have to, we can make it understand to each and everybody. Tell the truth and tell it with dignity and self-respect. So author is saying, talking about yourself doesn't mean you start creating facts or you go into some kind of fiction. No, tell them truth and tell them with dignity that you do this and you like this. There is no right or wrong in doing something, but be brief. Value time. Moving on to chapter 6. Here the author says, teach what you know. So he says, share your trade secrets. I am quoting him word by word here. The impulse to keep yourself what you have learned is not only shameful, it is destructive. Anything you do not give freely and abundantly becomes lost to you. You open your safe and find ashes. So here he wants to say, if you want to keep something you have learned to yourself, it's not just shameful. In fact, it is destructive, because if you won't share it, you might forget it, or it may become stale. So sharing doesn't mean instant competition. It means you have worked a long time on it, and you have worked out of passion. So if you tell somebody or you teach somebody, don't think he's going to be a competition. No, he is not going to be a competition, because he doesn't share your mindset. He doesn't share your enthusiasm towards the thing, and he doesn't share those experiences of mistakes you learned from during the process. So share it freely, generously. It add values to what you do. Teach what you learn. Point to references, your reading list, your tools you use. Make people better at something they want to be better at. And a very good example of this thing is all the big chefs sharing their recipes in their cookbooks. So they don't think it will belittle them or it will create a competition for them. They are teaching what they have learned through their experiences, and they make good money off it also. And they make somebody who wants to learn cooking or who wants to learn something better from what they have learned. Coming on to chapter 7, don't turn into human spam. So here, for whole of the book, the author talk about share your work. But here he wants, don't be a human spam. So it's like you have to listen also. Not like every time it's my work, me talking about yourself. You have to listen. If you want to get what you have to give. If you want people to notice you, you have to listen to people also. And of course, you want genuine following, genuine hearts, not eyeballs. So quality matters instead of quantity. Be interesting, be curious and attentive towards others' work, and they will be interested in you. Connection, author says here, connections are a natural outgrowth of doing things I was doing anyway. It says you don't make connection first. You make connection while working on your project. You do things you like anyway, and the people who like the same thing will be connected to you through your work. Being good at what you do is the only thing that earns you a good connection. So don't say that you are doing it for connections. No, your work is going to make you connections. Here is a very interesting thing, the vampire test. So the author says, preserving your energy and your time is very important. For that, you must take a vampire test about everything you do. You can apply it on people and jobs or anything you want. Okay? So the chapter starts with Derek Sivers' quote, whatever excites you, go do it. Whatever drains you, stop doing it. So in the vampire test, he says, if after hanging out with someone you feel worn out and depleted, that person is a vampire. That means if you are in a situation or you frequently find yourself in somebody's company and you feel drained or exhausted after that, that person, that situation, that work is a vampire. Try not to stay there. Remove yourself from your surroundings. Avoid it as much as possible. And try to hang out with your own kind who fills you with energy, with new ideas, and with inspiration. Here, the next author gives a baseball metaphor for identify your fellow knuckleballers. He says, find your real peers. By this, he means those who are interested in the work you are interested in, but who do what you do and who have similar mission and mutual respect for each other. When you pin your own kind, you get your own team. And next he says, meet up in meet space. He says, of course it's a virtual digital world, but nothing substitutes face-to-face meetings. So whenever you get a chance, do meetups. Moving on to chapter 8, learn to take a punch. He says, when you do creative work, you have to face criticism. So let them take their best show. The more people come across your work, the more criticism you'll face. When you share your work and more people will see it, more they will have opinions, more criticism you're going to get. And here's how to take punches. This is the author explains it in 5 steps. He says, relax and breathe. Don't imagine the worst. He says, you don't make it bad by thinking about it in your head. Let it come, then you'll deal with it. And of course, bad criticism is not the end of world. And strengthen your neck. By this, the more you put, the more criticism you get, the more you realize it can't hurt you. That means once it feels bad when you get something first time, the second time it reduces, third, fourth, fifth, and then you get used to it. Third step is roll with the punches. That is, control how you react to the criticism. It is not important that you answer every comment you have in your that come in your way. And fourth is protect your vulnerable areas. That means compulsive avoidance of embarrassment is a form of suicide. That means you cannot avoid embarrassment in life. If you'll do something, obviously you'll be embarrassed at some point of time. You don't think you are perfect, and you will make no mistakes, and when you'll mistake, you'll embarrass yourself. That's not a big deal. If you have a vulnerability, you have to own it. And if you are seeking to avoid vulnerability at any cost, then you won't be able to do anything, and you won't amount to much in life. Because to achieve something, you have to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. So don't care about it that much. You will be embarrassed, so what? It's not the end of what. And then fifth is keep your balance, mentally and physically, and in your work also. Let people say what they say, and you do what you want to do. Your work is something you do, it's not what you are. You are working on a project today, and you'll work on something else tomorrow. So don't take things too personally. The trick is not caring what everybody thinks of you, and just caring about the right people think of you. That is, we talked about your own team, your own kind. Care what they think about your work, because they genuinely like that work. And don't care about what everybody ABC is saying about you or your work. And you don't feed the trolls. Once you start reacting to trolls, they'll hit you harder. So don't react to them. Delete nasty comments, or forget what somebody said about you in a party or about your work. Just delete it from your mind. You must know how to filter who you should listen to and who you should not. We should be very careful what affects us in form of other people's word. And not everybody is opinion matter. There are few people you genuinely respect whose opinion should matter to you, but you should not pay attention to what everybody else is saying. So moving on to chapter 9, that is sell out. The author says you cannot be an artist without money. He says even the Renaissance had to be funded. Money has to come from somewhere, whether it's your artwork, or be it a day job, a wealthy spouse, a trust fund, an art grant, or a stipend, or whatever. Money has to come from somewhere. So find out ways to make money, whether it's from your work or from your day job. In the beginning, when you are not making money out of your artistic work, you can have a day job or any other form. But you have to have money to make more, to work more on what you like. And pass around the hat. That means if you get a chance to support any artist there, go do it. And for marketing purposes, keep a mailing list always. Always keep a mailing list, so that when you have something to sell, when you have something to present, you have a list ready at your disposal. And make more work for yourself. That means you work, you get some money, and then you make more work. That is how it works. There is a quote which he mentioned: you just have to be as generous as you can, but selfish enough to get your work done. That means first save for your work, first complete your work, and then if you have left, if you can in any way, be generous to your fellow artists. Now the last chapter, to sum it up, is sticking around. So the author says the most important thing is sticking around. Don't give up. Don't quit your show. You have to keep going on if you like it. The people who get what they are after are very often the ones who just stick around long enough. Means if you will stick around, you'll get what you want. But if you give up, there is no hope. So don't give up on hope. Work is never finished. It's only abandoned. This is Paul Valerie's quote, and it means great. Work is, so you never finish your work. You just abandon it for some reason. Then he says, your work or your method should be a chain smoke method. That means your last project should be inspiration for the next one, and never lose momentum. There should be no loose work day. You have to work every day, however small is. Some days are more productive, some are less, but you have to work every day. There should be no gap into it. Go, and he says if you are burnt out or exhausted, take a sabbatical and come back. So you are just taking a break. You are not abandoning it. Take a sabbatical and come back energized and work on your project hard. Sabbaticals are small can be long breaks or can be small practical breaks during your day. So he gives best form of practical small sabbaticals, that is a commute. About a commute, he says a commute happens twice a day and it nicely separates your work life from your home life. It's a great time where you can think about things which are not related to your work or your home. It can be your me time. And second is exercise. Exercise makes you think about yourself and makes you live in the moment, and it can be a great source of energy. And nature, the author suggests connect to nature in any form every day, for however small time it is. And then last, he says start over, begin again. He says starting over is not a good attitude. You should say to yourself begin again, because you don't really start over. You cannot forget the lessons from your past mistake, and when you begin again, those lessons seep into your process. So it's not literally a starting over, it's a beginning again. Here he mentions a quote from Milton Glaser, says whenever Picasso learned how to do something, he abandoned it, so that he can be enthusiastic about something else and learn something else. Anyone who is not embarrassed of what they were last year probably isn't learning enough. That means if you are not if you don't think that the person you were last year doesn't know much, then you haven't learned anything new in this year. So keep learning every day. You never really start over. That I told you that it's just beginning again. So at the end, these are few lines which I'm quoting word by word. Document your progress and share as you go, that others can learn along with you. Show your work, and when the right people show up, pay close attention to them, because they will have a lot to show you. So he's saying you show your work, you look out for others' work, and when the right people will come, you will know, and they will have a lot to show you, and you learn from them. So this is the end, and well, my recommendations from the book is that don't be embarrassed, don't feel insecure, don't let the fear hold you back. Just put a step forward for what you like, and things will fall in place. You will learn what you don't. Things will get better. Today you make something and you feel like an amateur, and or just like you don't like the product because it's so beginner types. But if you won't start it, it will never be as good as a professional one. So start it away. Don't lose time. Don't sit around. Don't just make plans in your head. And the second thing is documentation. That's a great thing he says, because when you document things, you are forced to look to give a second look at your day, a second look at your work. So document every day. A journal is very, very, very important. I cannot stress it enough. It's very important, and I suggest this. I recommend this book to every new artist, especially the YouTube beginners. When you are beginning at something, please do go and read this book. It's not a big read, and it is worth your time. So thank you guys. Hope you liked the review, and hope you